You can't do hip hop without ...
The Nature Valley granola bars.
Yo. Good morning, good noon, good evening, whatever time and place you listen to us from, straight from the 909. It's Mark.
Hey, yo.
A. Brook.
Yo.
Myself, Isaiah. And together, that's
hip hop.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. It really does mean a lot. Today, we have a special guest, local legend of ours, from being a crazy dope artist to a producer in the hometown of Rialto, California. When it comes to producing beats or making music, A. Brook was born for it. The dedication to detail and crafting the perfect sound is everything A. Brook stands for. He is an IE legend and major influence to artists who have crossed paths working with him. From cold middle school days to performing in big hip-hop venues, A. Brook, Feedback Loop, welcome to the show, brother.
1-800-A-Brook. Thank you for having me, fellas. How you doing?
$2.99 a minute.
Yeah, and then also peace to A. Brook. He provided the intro for the That's Hip Hop podcast. So peace to A. Brook for that as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And peace to the beat that we used.
We used the old beat of yours for a freestyle. We do a freestyle every 5
We
episodes.
just let them know right now.
Yeah.
By the way,
I mean, if I heard the beat, it would definitely like re-inspire, reignite a lot of
old beat, brother.
really good, just creativity.
Adrian had a lot of those. A lot of these just beats that were just like just in the crevices of his like hard drive.
Those boxes that you saw in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I mean, one of those boxes, we had to blow off the dust and get one of those beats out of them.
Piece of this episode, because this episode is a scenic route from our normal. Normally we cover albums and we go through like the lyrics and everything like that. But this is one of those special episodes where we get to just fellowship with one of our own brethren, which is a unique thing that we get to do.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that, IE is coming into its own, man. It wasn't like how it was before.
It's infrastructure wise and, just the progressive thinking behind a lot of people in our generation that are in charge right now, that are moving those things forward. So I see that. I see that for sure.
It's happening, man. Slowly.
We had to get magneted to Los Angeles to a certain degree for a long time.
Correct.
And I'm glad that we actually found our own entity.
Oh yeah. No, I used to
sound
run
and everything.
Yeah, we used to wreak havoc in downtown LA. So not, having a spot where it's like, yo, this is home. But we wreak havoc in a different way with just being productive. So I see a lot of people building things from the ground up, things that didn't exist before, just around my environment, so it's good to see that. How
do you think living in or being raised in the IE has shaped you as an artist?
It's country. It's kind of like a little bit of country because it's like we're technically geologically in the South, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like if you put a line all across the U.S., like this is the South. So we have a lot of that. We have manners.
I never heard it put like that before.
Well, I'm just, we have manners, we have respect, we have like this thing where it's like wholesome, where it's okay to be yourself. Like we're not tripping off what you do or how you do it.
But there is some grit out here. Like, I would say it's almost like 40-60, like as far as grit. It's hood out here still, even though it's suburbs, there's some hood still. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think now it's like there used to be, I guess, a middle ground where people were like, oh, this is, where some of like the struggle still is in terms of just trying to figure things out.
Yeah. But San Bernardino right next door, and this is like notoriously in the United States, one of the top 3 like, crime criminal rated cities of all time, unfortunately, but it just is what it is.
And I walk my dog every morning in downtown San Bernardino.
That tells you.
For the last 2 years. Yeah. So like I'm understanding of, where you should be, where you shouldn't be at certain times of the day. And that's just if you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yo, he's valid, B. Translation.
Translation, valid, B.
Equals. Yeah.
I've known you for a long time, Adrian, and, so that's why I think this episode's going to be particularly cool because we actually know you personally. Yeah. Outside of being an artist, you've always been about it as long as I can remember. And I met you first in middle school, I believe. And then in high school, and and then those days, I remember you were like really about it. Like you had a lot of drive about hip hop. And my question is to you is like, because I've known you almost when you were barely finding that, but where before that, like where did the drive come? Because you were really focused on hip hop back then. So
yeah,
what was the drive? What was that?
I mean,
for you,
the initial like recognize, what hip hop is or was, or just being in high school at Eisenhower, like listening to freestyles and rap battles in passing period, and listening to dudes like one dude is beatboxing, providing the beat, and then there's like 6 other people just freestyling. I'm like, yo, this is a crazy type of art that I've never knew about or knew existed, but these dudes are freaking it like they've been doing it for a long time, and it's like just for passing period. So you only got 5 minutes to, the homies hitting the beat, people start freestyling up and down, and that's just the early understandings of what hip hop was, and then because I saw it as a challenge, that's always been like the igniting factor of what I could do or would decide to do is like, yo, how hard is this for somebody to do, and can I do it myself just by myself? So then, I kind of would like join into some of these like passing period freestyle sessions by just incorporating this drum or a snare to help the beatbox dude make the beat a little stronger or something like that. So that was like probably the very, first like underlying introduction to like me thinking like, oh, well, I had rhythm because I'm following these dudes in high school, listening to what they're doing. I'm like, this sounds dope. And then jumping into music, shortly after, because my younger sisters, they started taking piano classes, but they gave it up like almost immediately. And I'm like, I don't like to let things go to waste. So I seen this piano and I just picked it up. And then, shortly thereafter, it was like, well, let me see how I can just record myself on tape, because we had a little tape cassette player. So I started recording myself playing piano, just like in a tempo or whatever.
Did you have any family influences that were like into music, or were you kind of the first branch out of that?
My mom, everybody's mom at some point, if their mom is present, would like sing at like family functions and stuff because they would have like music going. And a lot of those traditional like Spanish songs, would be playing. So, sometimes at some point in the night when there was enough alcohol and people were having a good time, like, the music came out of them and they started singing. So a lot of the early, just like knowing what music and sound and people, doing that was from that. But, being in high school and, being in that social dynamic of like, oh, this is where people have their own personalities. They have their own understanding of what sound and rhythms are. And they're collaborating in 5 minutes or less because, you got to get to class or whatever. So those are just like the early, like, shavings of what I even conceptualized as what music and hip hop was.
I want to say this episode should relate for those who were MCs back in their heyday or even currently in high school, middle school, early beginnings of, you as an MC finding your craft. And I'm just going to kind of like pull you into like who Adrian is, in our circles locally here. Adrian's one of those guys that you would want to be cool with because dude here is like our like Mad Lib, like our,
is that so?
Is our producer out here that like, you would want to collab with this dude,
hey, man.
Early in the beginnings. Fortunately, I had the pleasure, in my early heyday of working with Adrian just as homies, just as homies chilling.
I remember
vibing.
I installed Reason 1.0 on your computer.
Oh, yeah, dude. Me as a beat maker,
yeah.
Big influence from you, bro, because you
blessings.
Were like God in that sense of doing it back then for us.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? Like, because you were just so early at like getting it.
I see.
Beat making is very technical. It doesn't sound technical, but it's very technical. You have to have the mental.
The first hurdle of it is time consuming.
Oh,
yes.
And it's a lot of education.
Yes. No, the first academically, we'll say like through those times in high school and stuff, I didn't do too well, not because I didn't necessarily like couldn't, or didn't understand the criteria, but it was really just like I found something that spoke to me way deeper than, which it was still mathematics. It was still, it was a lot of things. So I was like, oh, let me break things down this way where I can at least, express and understand myself. And then also, maybe other people might, be inspired by, one or two tracks that might come out the right way, you know, because sometimes it was just like figuring things out, you know?
Yeah. My question to you is, because you were so early, you're notorious for championing reason, as you know, that's kind of been your go-to as far as beat making. You know, a lot of beat makers have their own, like Fruity Loops or Pro Tools or whatever. You know, you've been kind of like in my bubble of the world, you've been the one that's really been championing reason. To this day, I think you still use reason. Can you talk a little bit about reason and your just experience with it? Like, why do you like reason so much compared to other or other softwares that's out there?
Truth be told, because it looked like the most challenging, the most intimidating program, where it was like, oh, here's a virtual spectrum of what a physical studio would look like, and I have all the tools within it, and it's just more hands-on in that sense. You know, like if I was using Pro Tools, I would still essentially need a physical mixer to have, you know, my channels all sort of synced up and, you know, have that manual, like, hands-on control.
Have you tried Pro Tools? You've dabbled with it?
No, I'm fluent in Pro Tools. So, but, you know, starting with Reason was just like kind of giving me that blueprint, just mentally, to be able to see it once I did have, you know, the money to get a mixer, a actual console with, you know, the whole setup and stuff, and really be efficient in that way. So, Reason just helped me see it so that it could be real, so I could manifest it for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
we have our various rappers that we used to look up to as when we were jits, and the thing is that we look to rappers like Mos Def and Masta Ace. We look to them as they made it sound so easy. That means we can do it.
Yeah.
You, in the production sense, who was that to you?
Man, Premiere taught me a lesson that I didn't even know I needed to learn prior to having a distribution deal with this DJ label in LA, or production DJ label. Shout out to Daddy Kev, shout out to the Order label, shout out to Alpha Pup.
All the shout outs.
Yeah. But understanding the 5-second loop and understanding that you can shape a record around a 5-second loop, so long as you're creating the peaks and valleys with your vocals. So it sounds like the song is changing. It sounds like the beat is changing. It sounds like there's all these like intricacies and stuff, but the beat doesn't change. So I've learned that through Premiere's, I guess, formula, and just knowing how to capture that 5-second, like, yo, I don't want this to end, as an inspiration to try to hit the nail on the head every time I made a beat, so that, you know, I didn't have to work not too hard, but just hard enough so that I knew I could get art plus feelings and emotions and inspiration all kind of blended into one 5-second loop, you know? So I got that from him, just understanding that, because I was like, this is a 5-second loop, nothing changes. And I'm like, this is fire. So once I had one of my own, I was like, oh, this is how you water it. This is how you nurture it to be a record, to be something that is more than just a 5-second loop.
Now, you started kind of like in the early 2000s, at least from what I see, you know, but how has sampling changed for you? Because back then, I know this was like kind of the early age of the internet and computers and stuff, but how has it changed from then, like in the early 2000s, to like now? Like, how is it different from when you sampled then to how you're sampling now? Or do you even sample now?
I rarely sample like records and samples unless I just maybe want to find something that I haven't heard, or something that I can implement, like maybe a really short cut. It's never like, oh, I need this whole minute or 30 seconds of this loop to add drums to it, because I want to like cheat the system, you know, and produce something that's easy where I just have to put drums on it, which, you know, is no shade to no producers, but I just like, again, I love a challenge. So sampling for me isn't challenging, because it's like I could just add the drums that sound the best to my ear without thinking, you know, and apply it to the track. So,
now, talk about sampling back then, because you did sample back then.
Yeah. And that was the motif.
It
literally was the framework for a lot of producers back then.
Oh yeah, and that was, you know, coming from like listening to like Billie Holiday, but not wanting to take a whole Billie Holiday, you know, cut and like put a drum on it. Like I would rather take some type of instrument sample versus like a voice or something where I could use it, you know, because I knew what it was in terms of industry. Like, you can't just take people's records and start producing them and then not expect to get some type of letter in the mail from somebody.
You can't.
With a red stamp on it, you know, like we don't want to go through that. So a lot of my
case in point.
Yeah, a lot of my sampling was tiptoeing around those legal like binds that existed at the time, which now are a lot different. But yeah, that was kind of why like sampling was there, but it was also me learning how to, like, if I put a sample on a record, I still lined up my own bass, my own piano, my own guitar, whatever it was, to that record, so that if that time came when someone was like, oh, we need to pull that sample, I still have a skeleton of those original instruments that I produced.
Yeah.
You know, so it wouldn't take away from the art. So that was a lot of where I was like, I don't want to sample too much, but I'll sample to learn the aesthetic of how to build records, you know, through samples.
This brings up a point, because I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but you know the whole beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, right?
Sure.
Metro Boomin, big time producer, Metro Boomin, found a way to respond to Drake's diss by coming up with his own beat, BBL Drizzy,
yeah,
right?
beat was fire.
The way that was made, I don't know if you've heard the story behind this, but I guess somebody was just messing around with AI.
Mm-hmm.
They created their own like little library of like, they wrote the lyrics, put it in AI. It created an old style sample. So it sounds like the samples from the 70s or 60s. Yeah. But this is a sample that was created like to 2024, like, and it sounds like it was back in the 70s or something.
Okay.
And Metro Boomin took that and like sampled that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know your thoughts behind that, but like AI and beat making, is there a relationship now? Do you implement AI at all in beat making, or is it just not there yet?
I don't think it's there yet, and only because there's still just like this crazy thing. It's like an Iron Man. They're like, oh, you know, you could be a suit or you could be a pilot, but there's still this innate like instinct that you have to know about capturing a certain emotion. And you can write a song, right?
That's good.
Well, you can write a song without, you know, music, and if it's, you know, captivating enough, it'll hold its weight through time. And then you can also have an instrumental that's captivating enough that, you know, will stand the test of time, that doesn't need words. So I feel like it's kind of like a little bit of both, where, you know, now as far as sampling and how, you know, he used it was just like, if it's fire, it's fire. How you got there is, I'm not really big on like, okay, like as long as you got there and, you know, we reached this like crossroad of whatever, greatness meets, you know, first time, you know, experiencing whatever that
luck or something.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge like element to.
I just saw that as so interesting, because we're used to samples that are legit samples from back in the day. This sample was created by somebody who just used AI to make a sample before it was sampled.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was the idea to me as a beat maker, very amateur beat maker, mind you, talking with a great beat maker, but like that to me, that idea of that was like, oh, that opened up a whole window of like, I could create my own sample.
Yeah.
I don't have to sample a sample. I can create a sample. And
I used to daydream about the day I could like pick up my phone, you know, like an actual phone, and start just cooking beats on it.
Yeah.
And now we're there. So I'm like, yo, in 10 years, we're going to be at that point where you don't need your device. You're just thinking of I'm just saying, we're moving really fast.
Our next clip, because Adrian predicts the future.
Adrian on Mars.
Making beats.
It just is wild to me, because it was always a thought. I was like, yo, we have cell phones. Like, I can't wait to not have to open my laptop or turn on the desktop and just cook on my phone in my car. So I've been some of the beats that I've made now, and I've even sold a couple beats I've made on my phone in less than like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you know.
Dude.
And I'm talking about like, oh, I didn't think I could sell beats off my phone. If I'm just cooking them on my phone, taking, you know, sounds and samples from the internet that are just there, and you just chop them up and make your own drums, make your own, you know, melodies and stuff like that.
And there's no downside to outsourcing a sample generated that is James Brown-esque, that is Miles Davis-esque.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is that you originate a unique sound akin to them, kind of similar.
Yeah.
But then it's your own, and then you build off of that, like how sampling is.
Yeah.
You just eliminated the original concept of it.
Yeah, now I don't have to tiptoe.
Right.
Or wouldn't have to tiptoe.
Well,
if
I like the
deciding
fact
to-
that you found your own, like, as far as, beat production, you kind of figured out a way to do it without the sampling, because, like, you're right, it does eliminate the whole legal issues of, like, sampling and what, that could halt a production or halt a great song that you produced and, like, you put out there. And so, like, it makes sense to, like, maybe try to stay away from it if possible.
Yeah.
But you've managed to kind of find your way around it, or work with it, and that's dope.
I'm a huge, like, as long as it's all natural, like, I'm willing to go that route.
And the thing is, guys, AYE Brook is actually, like, not just in, like, making beats, on a computer or whatever, but, like, you actually know instrumentals as well. Like, some drums. I've seen you mess with some drums.
Yeah.
You dabble on the piano. You know guitar. Like, you add to that as you see fit, which is also another element to just a beat maker, as a whole. That's pretty dope. One thing I want to go to, though, is this is a very selfish question, so I'm very sorry for those listening.
Don't apologize. This is a sorry, not sorry.
But what I'm saying is, as far as, like, influence, one of the major projects that influenced me at a very young age was a beat you produced for actually Selfie.
Okay, word.
And his brother, Lugnuts.
Oh, word, okay.
And this is a track you produced. It was a diss track for them. I don't think you made it knowing that per se, but, or did you? I don't know if you knew that.
Shout out to Els and shout out to Selfie, by the way. I just seen them, like, two couple days ago at the barbershop. So shout out to them. Shout out to Edgar Sosa as well. No, so a lot of times when I would make beats for, just testing the waters, locally, guys would just take those beats and do whatever felt, and I wouldn't necessarily be opposed, but I wouldn't find out until after something was done, and they're like, "Oh, they made this track
like
on your beat," and I'm
shit
like,
ever.
"They made it on my beat. Like, how come they didn't tell me?" You know what I mean? Like, and so it didn't hurt.
And then I'm also guilty of that as well. So
but it never, like, oh man, like, because what was I gonna make, like, 2 cents off of, if it was even, like, streamable or people could download it. Like, it wasn't even like that. It was just, to me, it was friendly, like, very friendly rivalries to kind of
that track actually turned out to be a classic. The one that it was a diss track, and I know I've talked to Selfie about it. He says that, we were kids, and it was inspired for different reasons, but now they're all cool and everything. But, like, at that time, the influence that track had on, let's say, a guy like me, hearing that for the first time, I'm like, yo. Because it's you guys are right here. You guys are in my circle. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, what it did to me was just like, okay, I gotta write. Like, I gotta write better. I gotta, like, make my own stuff, because I know you're not gonna, like, tailor make stuff for me. I'm like, I gotta do my own shit. I gotta come up with some stuff like this.
I feel you.
That's real. That's raw, and that's, like, just hip hop.
Yeah.
And that track, I still have it to this day on this laptop right here.
Yeah. There it is.
Just because the fact that inspires something in me to be creative, and that's the guy we're talking about.
Respect, man. Love. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Can you talk about just, I know it's selfish, but can you talk about, that beat and just, I don't know if you remember that beat, but I think you sampled one of the Beatles tracks.
Yeah.
It was a violin.
Like,
it was like,
I vaguely remember it because I remember just, like, some of the tones that, how they were, like, rapping on the track. But I don't, like, remember the
How did you stumble upon?
He's like, I don't remember the aftermath of the.
Yeah, no, because it was just like, the dust.
I don't remember the scorched earth.
I was waiting for the dust to settle for a week before I introduced my face to the sun.
20 years later, I think the fallout it's okay for us to answer and talk about.
There's a time capsule
and
somewhere.
Mind you, these are two big forces in hip hop.
We're literally dating ourselves with, like, 909 Rialto beefs.
Okay, let me say this. These are two big forces locally for us. I mean, they're two big families. Selfie's family is a family, right? The Santabanez family is a family. Like, these are two big families bumping heads, like, right in front of us. You're somewhere in the middle, like, hey, I just make dope beats, but hey, all right, like, can you talk about this? Like, how'd you even stumble upon that sample, dude? Because that sample is like freaking.
Yeah, because that ends up building onto a beat that like, you know, I get a perspective because Self-Ice showed me that like way before anyone else heard it. He compliments the beat heavy.
Yes.
He compliments the beat heavy. Even like he was like, "You're not even supposed to get this, Gene." He's all burning it for me, let me hear it. So
cool. they understand like just the respect of as far as the art, you know, because again, like they could time capsule it and keep it to themselves or put it out, but you know, they knew that as either way it's gonna go, like someone's gonna find a creative, you know, something out of it. Like, you know, you'll find something that resonates with you in that record, whether it's the sample, the drum, the snare, the voice, whatever. So I think they understood that. And shout out to Melee, my homie Efren, you know, Abstract.
Whole Santabanez family.
Peace,
Jaime,
real one, you feel me?
Peace to Efren's pops.
Yep.
Hey, rest in peace, man. Blessings.
That whole family, man. Blessings.
Yeah, man. Blessings, man. Blessings to them. But yeah.
But making that beat, like, can you remember, try to dig back way deep in the memory bank of like just stumbling upon that beats. And then also producing that? Like, did you feel like you needed to rap on it? Like, how did that, what were your feelings?
You know, I think once it came out and I understood that there was this like distortion or this friction dynamic in the record, it didn't really make me feel like I wasn't attracted to it in that way where I'm like, oh, I want to keep pushing this this energy on either side because, you know, I want to try to, I don't know, instigate or, you know, like I just let the beat do what it was supposed to do. And however people felt they needed to write and rap on it was like, okay, cool. But then hearing it afterwards, it essentially turned me off the beat. You know what I mean? So then I wasn't so attached to it. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like whatever. Like it's just one of those. And then if I would have continued, if they would have been like, oh, we want to give back or try to write back something, I'd be like, all right, but you know, I'm not going to produce it. You know what I mean? So,
you know, he's taking the Robert Oppenheimer approach to create an atomic bomb,
this nuclear bomb.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I just made the bomb.
I'm having dreams of Rialto exploding in ripples of nuclear blasts.
I'm just a scientist here trying to
waking up in pools of sweat, and I'm like, I can't have this happen at 17 years old. This is impossible.
Making a fire-ass beat, you know what? You got to hold the responsibility to that. On the Uncle Ben tip, you know, the great power, great responsibility, bro.
I walk up to you know, what's his name, Einstein, and pat him on the back, and I'm like, hey, bro,
I got it from here.
I got a question. He's like, don't do it. You know?
He's like, me and you are kind of equals. I made a nuclear-ass beat. You know, you kind of made, you know, made the structure for nuclear power and all that.
I could totally see it, dude.
Yeah.
You know, so I have this crazy insight with Adrian because, and this is the advantage or edge I have as a host. I have the insight of Adrian because I was there with this dude. Like I remember him just chilling. He was really good friends with my close friend Jesse. Yeah, was a legend like to me because he was a big influence to me. But Adrian A. Brook was, you know, really good homies with the whole family. The Jesse's his own family too as well. And he was, you know, always really close with Jesse. You know, can you talk about Jesse a little bit and just like, you know, when you like met him and just your overall thoughts with the family? And this is a selfish question again. Sorry.
Yeah. No, Jesse, Jay's been solid since day one, you know, and even in just like early, just understanding music and hip hop, he also understood like, you know, because I went into their room and installed Reason, and at some point I think I installed Cool Edit Pro and all these
piece to these softwares.
Piece to Peter Quaisgard.
The first time Peter Quaisgard gets his ears ringing and shit.
His little 5 minutes.
He just woke up from a nap.
Yeah, someone said my name right now.
It's hip hop as fuck, dude.
Yeah, so anywhere I went, it was like, let me plant a seed. And you know, implement this little piece of knowledge as far as, you know, technical advances going in music as it was growing. Yeah. So being able to do that, and then we used to just skate in his backyard all the time. Yeah, so that was a big thing. You know, we would just skate, hit. You know, he had a little flat bar.
Dude, his dad was a construction person, so like he constructed a whole freaking skate park in his backyard. Like
it was.
That's like fucking like you would dream of a dad who would just fucking make a skate park for you. Like that's fucking dope.
No, we used to tear it up for sure. Yeah, so those
that and basketball too.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anything, I guess, sports related, he was somebody early on that had a lot of those like athletic avenues.
Yeah, Jesse did.
You know,
he was pretty good at ball.
so he understood, you know, and me understanding his knowledge of just like sports a little bit and stuff like that was like, oh, okay, we share knowledge in essence. We have a commonality. We can exchange, you know, I can exchange music knowledge because, you know, he would go on and start writing and, you know, really developing his flow.
Dude, Jesse had
and
a lot
then
of
he would tell me,
punchlines, bro.
he would tell me about it afterwards. He'd be like, yo, man, I went into the RV, you know, because they had the RV in the back. He went to the RV and smoked. And then, you know, I was listening to some beats and I started writing and I started rapping and I was like feeling it. I was like, all right, well, let me hear it, you know? So I would like test him in that way, you know. So he felt, I think, again, just going back to people that I know in my circle that appreciate a challenge, knowing that is something that they can do, not just like, oh, I don't see myself past this hurdle. Like really being able to see yourself past that and then just gunning for it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We in our circles around this time, the early 2000s, we had this mystique about you in the sense of like, hey, if you get a beat from Adrian, you pretty much have the framework to set up. Exactly. John Stockton, bounce pass, you got to be Karl Malone. You got to finish that, you know, how you want to.
I unfortunately dropped the ball on a couple of those occasions, but you know what? I'll own that.
Zay keeps like, he
I
keeps
won't
doing
negate
that.
it.
But it helped. It helped still.
Yeah.
But go as you were saying.
So how do you handle that kind of responsibility? Because you had to have heard it, and you know you can't. It's unavoidable. The thing is what I want to ask you is that how does someone 17 in the 18s and even into the early 20s have to deal with that kind of responsibility, and how do you approach it? Because you're dealt with this set of cards of my beats are nice. Everyone's flocking to them.
Plus, you can write and rap yourself, which was also dope.
So,
yeah, and that's
how did you approach that?
Yeah, no, being able to produce, write, you know, and structure your own art really is the advantage, because then I knew, okay, this tailored suit or this tailored dress fits this person, or you know, because again, we're all just instruments, frequencies, resonance, sound of creation. However far back you want to go, you can go as far as back as the Big Bang if you want to, but we can keep it up front and just say that understanding the dynamic of people's voices being instruments within a record, and then just listening to those instruments, right?
Yeah, it's true that sometimes people don't recognize that.
Yeah,
they are instruments.
Yeah, in conversation or just, you know, in being in those circles with different people throughout the music scene, especially in like underground, i.e. hip hop, which is, you know, major like subcategory that people aren't really tapped into, because everyone, if you're in it, you know, if you have that flow of just being creative and having that consistent, you know, output, you can make a living for yourself, you know, and you just have to be consistent. So I've seen that firsthand, I've seen that secondhand, I've seen that third hand, you know, with people that are really in it, you know, doing what they do.
Because to this day, dude, you're a go-to producer for artists who are doing it like for reals, like let's say a Triz.
Sure.
Like, you know, he might even come to you, or a Noah James.
You know, I've engineered some Triz music and produced a record for Triz or two. So, you know, we've had those connections. Because, I mean, it really comes down to like some of the greats from the IE are still the greats. And that's just saying that they've maintained and held on to their art and have you know, maintained a certain standard for themselves so that they continue to thrive in that, because, you know, you can survive off of that, you know, if you're able to tap into it. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, dude. I guess my next question for you is just like, you know, you're still doing it to this day.
Oh yeah, hands
you're
down.
Probably making beats daily. I don't even know how much beats you're making a day, but I'm imagining you probably have a crazy shitload of beats.
Yeah, we're trying to get into that backlog, bro. You know, that's hip hop needs beats, bro.
It's a surplus. Yeah, for sure. yeah. You know, there's enough beats, but what my primary, you know, like what I pride myself on is that when I do make a record, it's because I intend to, again, just hit the nail on the head. Like, we don't need to make 25 beats a day. I can make 3, and one of those 3, or maybe all 3, are going to connect with 3 different people. And then, you know, beyond that with the world or whoever they stream it to. Or
what are you more interested in? Are you more interested in making music like for yourself, or are you more interested in the beat or helping others? Like, what's your main kind of, what are you more interested in?
I think my interest, I would say, grew. I wouldn't say they changed, but they definitely grew to be more selfish in that sense, because once I felt like, okay, I've figured out a formula for myself through working with others and helping them reach their goals. So now I can apply that to myself beyond just the studio, because now I can deliver, a full set, a 15, 20-minute, 30-minute set, maybe even an hour set, if it's put together the right way. And so I have that ability now, which where before it was more focused on being in the studio, on the boards, mixing and mastering, which is it's still a thing, but I'm slowly kind of weaning people off of those services, because that was just me growing, but also like, I don't want to work for the man. I want to work for myself. So let me provide a service and learn mixing and mastering so I can help my local artists not get duped by those, horror stories, which you get a lot from even just female MCs that come through the studio. They're like, yo, this dude didn't give me my music, or this dude, he took my money and never, did nothing for me. I'm like, okay, well, that sucks, but lesson learned. Like, I'm trying to change the stigma of some of those, underground engineers and producers that have maybe done people wrong in the business.
Yeah. Like, because I know you sell beats all the time, probably, right? Do you have let's say you make an exchange and you do sell a beat. Do you have a time expiration date before they use it, before you resell it? Or how does that work in the business? Because I imagine you want the beat to be used, and let's say you have a writer who doesn't complete the track, or in my case, might be slow with it. It might take several years. What do you do with like that? Like, you have a dope beat, you want it to be heard, but you sold it now to somebody who might be more slower with the pen.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. I guess I just don't have an expectation in that sense, because I've done my part, and released the song into the world, and someone else can take that song, and then whenever they're ready to release it to the world, by all means, like, take your time, because I would rather you take your time than feel the pressure of like, Brooks counting on me to put this out by September, but it's December now and I'm a little late, what am I going to say? Like, to me, as long as you figure out the things that you want to say that are coming, from your gut, and the things that you feel that, should be said on the record. That's, again, just me being able to carve the ice before, so that you can maybe see a lane for your thoughts or your feelings to be expressed and be able to, like, ice luge through the track, what I mean?
Yeah, because I know for me, Mark's different. Mark pins pretty quick.
Oh yeah,
for me it takes a little bit of time, because
he's a marksman when it comes to the pen. Yeah, I know that much.
Yeah, and he also respects to Mark freestyling. He's
I'm tapped
killing
in.
it.
Yeah,
he's killing it now.
Yeah, this big brain. By the way, if people didn't know, this is a big brain session we're having right now. It's a big brain podcast. So you gotta have a big brain.
We have to walk sideways through the door. Because of our gigantic craniums that we're dealing with here.
What was going to say in regards to that, now going on to your music, like, I'm just going to go start with Trabajo, Leve. That I think, dope project, dude.
Thank you, dude.
It's an EP and it's fucking fire. What I've noticed is that you've, from what I've known you've rapped a lot in English.
Yeah.
This is now you taking a Spanish approach to hip hop.
Yeah.
Which, I know you're bilingual. You're very fluent in Spanish, but like, what inspires you to then take this the Spanish approach to hip hop?
Man, I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I feel like that question has been prepped for the last maybe 2-3 years in my mind. So understanding the dynamic of Spanish music, Spanish rap in the last, I would even say 25, maybe even 30 years of Spanish, music, radio, whatever. The concept and the context hasn't changed. It's still very misogynistic. It's still very much, it's still, hip hop is braggadocious, but in the way that a lot of, Spanish music has been written, it's in a traditional sense, doesn't really fit in with modern times. And so what I was trying to do, and essentially with this project, was just spark a different train of thought for my people and people that, of Spanish descent or that speak Spanish in the community, that they would get a different feel for what rap and hip hop could be versus what they're used to seeing or, you know, exposing their kids to. Because it's not stuff that, you know, maybe some conservative, you know, households want their children to listen to, but it's not just about the kids or for the kids. It's essentially for anyone that can grasp the concept of what I'm saying in the songs, because they're very straightforward concepts. It's all just self-motivational, and just kind of recognizing yourself as a powerhouse versus being that sort of dependent or a codependent feeling of, you know, which most, any household, doesn't matter if you're Latino or not, like you would at least feel that nurture within yourself versus seeking it somewhere else.
I thought it was dope too, because, you know, it also separates you or sets you apart from a lot of rappers. There's a lot of rappers who aren't bilingual. You know, it's just what it is. And or that maybe, there's just not a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a couple out there, but there's just, I mean, for me, it's just, again, just trying to do it the right way that fits and aligns with my beliefs and the things that I want to see in my future and in my environment.
I guess I could think of Self-Fi. Self-Fi's a bilingual rapper, but Self-Fi doesn't really go fully Spanish. You know, he might mention a bar or two that might be Spanish. But you know, you decided to take this whole project and go Spanish. You know?
I mean, like I said, I've been listening to beats, and I do a lot of writing and just, you know, a lot of structuring in my car when I'm listening to beats. I like being in the studio, but I'd rather be in the studio for the actual creation of the record and laying things down. And
is the studio like your second home? Because I feel like it's almost, if not your second, it's like your first home. Like,
Oh yeah. Right now it's my first and second home. So staying,
it's just both. It's just both.
Staying in those, you know, constant frequencies of like my output isn't just about me feeling a certain type of way during the day. It's like now I can really focus in on, you know, if I wake up and in a certain mood, I can just channel some thoughts and write them down on my phone, or go to my car and put a beat on from the email from someone else, you know, because I don't always produce a lot of stuff too. There's people that have been sending beats throughout the years, and a lot of them, you know, they're just fans of some of the Spanish stuff. They're fans of some of the English stuff, and they just want to see their record be put on. And like you said, sometimes some people take a little longer. Some people might, you know, take less time. And so I think that they saw a little bit of consistency in me being able to, you know, record, mix, and master, and produce a record. So I could even show them a different way to structure their songs, because they'll send me a beat and be like, oh, I want to add this to it. I want to change this and switch it up. And they'll be like, yo, this is, you know, they never thought of that, you know? So it's just a cool way to collaborate too with outside producers.
Now, you've done a lot of shows and performances. I've seen you on Instagram, you know, doing a lot of performances for venues and different events and stuff going on. I know you've done even shows with Noah James and everything like that.
Shout out to Noah James, Lisa J.
How do you feel the feedback has been with this project, Trabajo, Leve? Like, how do you feel they responded with this project? Do you feel like it was a good response? Does that motivate you to do more? Or how has that experience been for you?
Yeah, no, so I wanted to do the Spanish EP first before the English EP, because I just felt like, again, just the concept of being able to put out this different train of thought into society, into Spanish community specifically, but just into society. Even if you didn't understand the lyrics, there was something in the structure of the melodies, the arrangement that made you feel something that maybe you hadn't felt before. Yeah, you know, and
beats. And the thing is, like, I listened to the album. Your fucking flow is fucking immaculate.
Thank you, bro.
But on top of that, I have to remember, I'm like, dude created the whole fucking soundscape. Like, he created the whole freaking world that I'm listening to. You created the beat from the bass line to like all the little intricate details. From A to Z.
Yeah.
Like that alone, I respect MCs first of all, but like a beat maker plus an MC, that's a rare boat, you know, that you fall into doing that, you know, being that.
Yeah, and then bilingual.
Special ability. Bilingual on top of that.
Yeah, we're delving into subterranean categories here.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to
go inner Earth.
Subcategory. Subcategory. We're almost down to Earth's core here.
We're almost there. We're basically there.
We're at the molten part of that hip hop.
Yeah, everything is mud from here down. So it gets really hot. So the man, for me, just having that understanding of like, okay, you know, I can also collaborate with other artists in some of these tracks.
And
so
you could literally have the vision of whatever you want to create, And being a beat maker plus an MC, that's what gives you a special ability, because you could literally have any vision. Like, let's say I wanted to make a very particular album, heavenly.
Sure.
You could fucking produce the whole soundscape that sounds heavenly with strings or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And then you could also write the flow for it. Like, having that, those attributes allow you to be very creative as you want.
Oh, yeah.
On any level.
Oh, yeah. No, going, fast forward from like high school era to even, having the opportunity to be in a studio with Wu-Tang Clan. Like, that was a huge.
Wait, when did this happen? I did not know about this.
No, this was like 2015. About 2014, 2015. Around that time, a buddy of mine, he worked for, I believe it was like a hip hop blog at the time. He was doing a lot of PR for them. And I had like a, rinky-dink warehouse job, in the IE. And I was just like my third day of work, and he shot me a text in the morning. Was like, hey, I got a +1, for this Wu-Tang session in Burbank. Can you make it? I'm like, damn, I have work at 3. I'm like, wait a minute. No, I don't.
Not anymore.
Oh, let's see. Wu-Tang or 9 to 5?
Yeah. So it wasn't even a thought. I was just like, let me call off because, I have this other, compromise. And he was like, nah, don't worry about it. So
I thought you just quit altogether.
No, yeah. So, I mean, I still needed to come back to work the next day, but at least, for it being the first 3 days of work, I was like, I didn't really feel like, okay, they're not going to take it too hard, and so, I called off and I shot straight over there. I actually borrowed my dad's truck at the time to get over there because I didn't have a whip at the time.
Piece of pops,
man. Let me borrow that Chevy. Got me all the way there. So, so just going back to inspiration and understanding like what the machine looks like, being in that session was a big eye opener. Because I wasn't trying to be a fanboy. I wasn't trying to rub shoulders with this guy or that guy because everybody was there. Minus ODB. Shout out to ODB.
Damn, the whole fucking clan was there?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like we went from Warner Brothers studio because they had a press release for the album that they were dropping that year. I think it was
9 diagrams.
No, it was I think it was the world. What's it called? The world after. So it was a very like end of the year project that they did.
Well, I got the internet, so I'll
look it up. Look it up.
Okay, and then
so I got invited to this press release for this album, but it wasn't just the press release, because afterwards, the whole clan was going to the studio, right? So that was only common knowledge once. And shout out to Method Man because I want to get the story straight because he and I had like a very small exchange on Twitter about it because I remembered it incorrectly. And so what happened was the PR homie was very nervous to walk up to Method Man because for whatever reason, just didn't feel approachable. And that's no diss to him because I understand, maybe the stresses of being maybe going from one label or to another or just being in the environment of doing a press release. It can be a stressful environment for sure. So I didn't also feel like, I don't want to just approach somebody, a legend, just like, hey, man, how's it going? I want to record your voice or I want to, because that's just not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I came prepared that day and I came prepared that morning because as soon as I got that text, I got a custom laptop bag that one of my homies made. My homie Eddie, shout out to Eddie, and shout out to Superfucker. That's the brand behind it too. That provided some of the artwork on it.
We got to interview Superfucker.
Yeah, we had a custom laptop, and he actually designed my No Interference logo. Shout out to Superfucker. So he designed that as well. But being at the Warner Brothers press release for this album, and having these items, this merch, this swag on me, one of their clans, the PR guy, the one that does all the merch, P, he ended up noticing that I had this gear on me. He was like, hey, man, I actually seen you earlier with this stuff. Like, what is it? And I was like, oh, actually, this is a laptop bag, a beat with a CD full of beats that I made just literally that morning when I got the text. I started burning a CD with beats on it, got some custom graffiti art, and just threw it all in the bag. And I was like, actually, this is for Meth. Like, this is for Method Man because I'm coming at y'all correctly with the impression that, you guys inspired me for, with 20 years of plus hip hop. And this is my thank you to you, Meth, but also everybody else in the clan.
Wait, so you handed them a CD?
I handed Method Man a laptop bag with a CD full of beats on it and then some artwork and just like custom graffiti stuff. I just like gave it to him. Damn. And then he was like, yo, like kind of taken back a little bit. So from that, there was just a very short exchange between him and a lot of the people coordinating the media press stuff. And then, one thing led to another, and then I started talking to Divine.
Hey, Method Man, we need you to light those beats up, dude.
Yeah, I don't know where that beat CD is now, but it was just, again, just kind of being grateful for the energy that they put out into the world and how they, really just kind of help solidify a lot of my inspiration and creativity.
RZA's a crazy dope beat maker back at that time, man.
Man, so
he was in his bag.
Yeah, so the studio session went on, but once I spoke to Divine, he was like, "Hey, do you want to go to the studio?" And I was like, "Yo, of course, let's do it." And one thing led to another. Sure enough, I'm taking my dad's truck now, like a mile up the street from Warner Brothers Studio to East West Studios, which is on Sunset. Mm-hmm. Pull up, you know what I mean? You hit the intercom. They're like, "Hey, who you here for?" I was like, "Oh, I'm here with Wu-Tang." And they're like, "All right, come on in." So it was just that surrealness already told me, like, I don't want to take more than what's being offered here, because I understand what's on the table. It's me learning the ins and outs of just a quick crash course. A quick crash course on how you can either build a machine or manage a machine for yourself. But here's a window, So that's how I took it. I wasn't in there again trying to rub shoulders or do the most, but best believe, like, yeah, I had sushi and smoked a blunt with Capadonna. Like, we had those conversations, and we had a very deep conversation. So it was a very, like, okay, I'm not here just to take from whatever they're doing. I'm actually learning something,
Dude, I didn't know that shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were there with them.
Yeah. And I could have pulled my laptop out and, did, the fanboy thing.
Had they known, like, you've been making so much beats and you live for it, you know?
Yeah. But I really didn't want to be that guy. I just wanted the experience of, being able to hold on to that experience for myself to utilize as fuel for the next, 25, 30, 40, however long, you know what I'm saying?
What kind of stuff was, like, Capadonna on? Like, what was he?
Man, I smoked him out. We smoked. He was like, so I was rolling up a blunt and
because Capadonna is one of those, like, he's a hidden character, like unlocked character for Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah. No, we were upstairs, and actually I think the Coachella documentary just came out where Wu-Tang did Coachella. So during that interview, I'm behind them, behind the couch that they're sitting on, rolling a blunt. I think it was I believe Ghostface was sitting on the couch. I think RZA might have took a seat, and then I think there was at least 2 or 3 of the Wu-Tang members on the couch that I remembered, and they were all sitting there. And then I was just rolling the blunt in the back, you know what I'm saying? So then after everybody got up, after the interview, they went downstairs back into the studio, and then Capadonna was the last one to walk out. And he was like, "Yo, you trying to spark that?" I'm like, "Yo, yeah, if anybody wants to burn." Went downstairs, little hallway area, started sparking up, and he just started going deep, talking about just knowledge. Dropping mad knowledge. And I'm taking it all in. And then, in between all that knowledge exchange, he was like, "Yo, you want to try some sushi?" I'm like, "Yo, let's do it." Because they were having vegan sushi. And the trippy part, again, just going back to sitting behind the couch behind these legends during their Coachella interview, I was like, "Yo, RZA walks in." And it's like a Dave Chappelle's is like
aura. It's like an aura.
How
Like
Dave Chappelle's like, "Yo, his aura," or whatever. Like, I seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Rick James, James aura.
Yeah. No, I seen it. I felt it.
Can you imagine? Because Adrian's, this is what he does, fucking all his life. Made beats, hip hop. That's who you are, And it's like you see a guy like RZA walk into the room. It's like fucking seeing like a Michael Jordan or somebody, like, somebody who you revered and you legit fucked with. Like,
it wasn't, it was better than any theme park I ever been to. It was better than any birthday experience. Not, no diss to my family and stuff, but this was like, yo, not even a wish that I even wished. You know what I mean? It was just me really putting it in my mind, and manifesting that opportunity to show up for itself. So, RZA, when he walked in, I was like, "Yo, is this really happening right now?" I'm 2 hands in this blunt trying to, and then my boy sitting next to me like, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna get kicked out? Do we have to leave now because more of the clan members are having a meeting and stuff? So, and they were just like, "No, you good? Like, you don't trip." So to have that acceptance and feel acknowledged as just a person beyond the hip hop thing, beyond that, I was like, okay, these are genuine folks really here to build something and continue their legacy. So seeing that machine work in real time, I was like, oh, I need to put myself or get my own machine to set up like that, where I have this constant output of, hey, this deal's happening here, this deal's happening here. We're just making moves like constantly. So it was a great experience. What a unique
hip hop group too. Wu-Tang Clan, there's nobody gonna ever be that.
You can't learn from anybody else. Like what you know what I mean? What I've seen a lot of shows, seen a lot of artists perform, but what I learned from them in those 3 or 4 hours, I was like, yo, this is
Dude,
I went to school.
Their State of Mind concert here at Yamava with Nas.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Bro, that was a fucking... And De La Soul, not to mention Talib Kweli.
De La Soul and Talib Kweli.
Yeah,
Just join in on the fun.
Nas in the back pocket beforehand.
Yeah, there you go.
Yamava has them.
Yeah,
Crazy, dude.
shout out to Yamava.
No, for real, some shit.
Scan this QR code for $50 for free play.
Yamava's hooked it up, like hip hop wise. They fucking hooked
They
it
understand.
up.
That's what I'm saying. Our generation is somehow infiltrated in a lot of newer business ventures where they're starting to show through in these bookings or in some of these shows that they present.
Now, props to you because you were mentioned in the, and I'm a little bitter on this, but for my own reasons.
Sure.
Yeah, this is just your podcast. I think you're just interviewing him on like
some personal shit.
Yeah, I know. This is just more on a personal playlist.
No, but you can check out A Brook, man. A Brook has his stuff on Apple and Spotify. He got so much production put out. So you can check out his stuff. I mean, he has a few EPs even out there, like dope production. Like if you're into like fucking immaculate production.
Yeah, and if this ends up in a time capsule too, I have spreadsheets of all the productions I've been involved with since 2011. So I have all that stuff documented.
He has all the receipts.
Very extensive, and I still need to catch up. So we're working on that.
Yeah, so check it out. If you're wondering, like, okay, what's this music like? Oh, well, check it out. You'll see.
Go to the library.
Yeah,
yeah.
But what was I gonna ask you now? I forgot now what I was gonna go with this. Oh
Personal?
Yeah, you were mentioned on the Only Empire. One of the artists.
Oh yep.
Who I had
About
an issue.
time.
I had an issue with.
Oh, here's the clip. Here's the clip.
I had an issue with personally because only because I've grown up in Rialto. I love hip hop so much. I'm an MC in my own right. Mark is an MC. Our friend Andre MC. Mm-hmm. These two guys, by the way, are fucking dope.
Oh yeah.
And I like to think that I put a lot of work into my written. So, but at the same time, I know, we haven't put production out there per se like that. Yeah. So they might not know us. But I was kind of like, you fucking missed a couple of people there. Sure.
Yeah. Dude, however, that list is mad controversial.
Yeah. I've heard.
It did turn out to be controversial.
I heard there was a diss floating around, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Damn, someone dissed all of everybody on that list?
But
I haven't heard it. So.
I honestly, when I read that, I saw your name on there. I'm like, yep, yeah, for sure.
Valid.
100%
for
valid.
Sure.
Because you not only have you been a legend in our circles, but fucking an IE. You've got yourself known, and so
and it's nice to be like top 4 or 5 because alphabetically,
because you were
piece to the alphabet, bro.
Yo, piece to the alphabet.
Piece today's mathematics, God.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so mad props. I mean, just looking back and again recognized like that. What does that mean to you? And getting recognized for your work and your contributions to fucking hip hop, and just not even here, but just globally even, I'm sure people have heard your stuff.
Yeah. I, when I first saw the list, and shout out to Only Empire, because I know they do a lot of their research. For
sure. I guess shout out,
and I think that,
fucking bitter as hell.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, there could have been a 1,000 MC list. There could have been a 200 MC list. There could have any number of lists, and somebody would have felt left out to some degree. Yeah. And that just, again, maybe just goes to like the logistics of being able to do that type of research, whether it's 1 or 2 people behind trying to figure out like their opinion or their version of what the greatest 75
Don't worry,
is,
man. Once I do my top 25 list, I'm leaving them out. Don't worry.
Yeah. So it's like, anybody can really just make their own list, and it's valid, because you're representing yourself at the end of the day. But it really didn't hit me like, oh my God, like, I've reached this like new level or this new thing, because even then, man, at the end of the day, nothing really was for the sole purpose of reaching like some type of recognition or all of that. I just did it because I love to do it. And I mean, you do something long enough like that, eventually it starts, kind of feeding back. So now I understand like full circle that, the list matters, but it doesn't, and for me, it only mattered for like a second when I saw it. And then afterwards I'm like, okay, now that I got there, now what? now I need to get on a top 20 list or a top 10 list, you know? So it is motivating in that sense, but to not be on the list, again, just feeding into the motivation side of it should be a motivating factor to be like, you know what? I didn't get on the list this time. I'm going to push to get on the top 75 next year and then the top 50 the year after, like whatever that's going to be. But it starts with at least you recognizing, hey, I'm not on this list or this person's not on this list. How can we get there? And then once you recognize
get there, bro.
No, but see this, and now we're putting it out there. So once you recognize it, yo, there's some voids to be filled here. Yeah. Those voids will be filled.
Yeah.
You know?
I fucking like the idea though that like even we have our own organization like that to recognize artists, because we didn't always have that.
Oh, believe me, they do their research. Like they sit and listen to whole entire catalogs of people's music. And they check the timeline of when you released it. They do their due diligence on what people's art is really about.
You know, one of the people that they mentioned on there was Cam Gnarly. I know you worked with him a lot. I peeped out his stuff a long time ago too when he was doing shows working with you guys. I think that's how I got introduced to him, because I saw him working with you or you know, I think you guys did a couple of music videos together. You know, what do you think of him as an artist, you know, working with him and collabing with him? What are your thoughts with his approach to hip hop, and you know, what influences have you got from him?
I think artistically, you know, he tends to represent. I mean, not tends to. He does represent, you know, the 909 the way it should be represented. You know, being, you know, born and raised, and just understanding, you know, how and what it takes to grow up out here, and understanding just, you know, those social dynamics in the IE are really important to navigate through when, you know, you're in music or when you're in a creative scene, because it just helps you be fluent with a lot of different people. So I've learned how to have those like just common, you know, conversations with artists that maybe I didn't connect with at first, but then just through speaking with them and just letting them, you know, kind of speak their truth and how they feel, come to learn and understand them a little bit better. So really, I've learned a lot of just how to be more understanding in terms of other artists.
Because you made a pretty iconic track with him. You made Top Notch with him.
Yeah. Right? No, that was and that was man. What I always tell people is like, when you put me under pressure, I will drop a diamond on you. Like I will drop.
How did you get under pressure?
So we were and this is, again, I love the motivation side of it. I never take nothing negative from any result or outcome, whether, you know, whatever the situation is. Something happens to me, I really see the glass completely full. There's no half full. And that's just how I like to water my thoughts, you know, and feed my mental bank. So yeah, that session at Alpha Pub Studios, we were at Cosmic Zoo in their studio in Burbank, Glendale area. Oh, actually, it was I want to say it's like Glendale area. So we're at their studio, but we had like 30 minutes before, I believe, Flying Lotus was a session after us. So it's a very
Lotus, you know,
a very prestigious, like, you know, people coming through the studio. So we had a privilege to be in there for, I believe, like 2 or 3 hours. So it was on the last half hour, and you know, Cam was working on that particular record with one of their engineers. Shout out to DJ Nobody. He was running the session that time, and he was just like, "Hey man, you know, do you want to throw a verse on here?" I'm like, "Yo, I have nothing written down. Like, I got 30 minutes. We got 30 minutes left in the session. You want me to write and record? Okay.
All right.
Whew.
Okay.
Yo.
Say less.
Yo.
One thing, again, just me kind of, you know, blacking out, like old school, you know, Will Ferrell's like, oh, what happened at the debate? Like, he blacked out against, you know, the dude he was debating on, you know what I'm saying? So he just like went into the zone and then came out and was like, all right, like, I got it, you know? So, yeah, it was like maybe 2 takes. And then it was like, you know, 25 minutes. Cool, we got 5 minutes left. Let's bounce it. Let's listen to it. And then we just bumped it all the way home.
Shit.
Yeah.
It's different working in a studio, huh? Like, is it different? To me, it feels different. Like when I'm going to a studio in LA or something and focusing that time into the music, different as if we were just writing it here. I feel like, you know,
it to me, it turns into the operating table, like, you know, in connection to what a surgery would be. It's like, we're in here doing surgery. This is a very like, you know what I mean? You have to have the know how to be in this room a little bit,
or even just writing on the spot like that.
Yeah, no,
totally different vibe compared to writing on it for months or something and then trying to record it? Like when you write it in that time and space, it's a time capsule.
It felt I guess the anxiety of not knowing if I was going to be able to write something that captivated me and inspired me in that short amount of time. But
because you don't want to release something that's whack.
Oh, like, yeah. And then proving to myself in that 10, 15 minutes, like, oh, yeah, no, you got it. You got it. And then writing the last word, all right, cool, let's do it. He's like, oh, you got it already? Yeah, let's go. Whew, you gave me 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? You could have told me 2 hours ago, but I appreciate it not being, because then maybe I would have wrote something different or not as impactful that, would actually get us a video, would get us, the.
And that song is fucking catchy. It's fucking like,
shout out to Cam, man. He, with the hooks, you know what I'm saying? Cam is always on point with his hooks. Yeah. Shout out to Ponsu, who produced the beat, you know what I mean?
The music video's dope. The music video, you guys were in front of the Carousel Mall, which is a fucking iconic area in San Bernardino.
Now it's gone.
Legendary.
Yeah, now it's just a ghost in the wind.
Yeah.
But it's there.
I seen Superfucker take pictures inside the Carousel Mall. Have you seen those?
No, I haven't seen those.
Dude, he took some dope pics inside the mall.
That's dope.
As it was all torn apart inside and all that. Yeah. Dude, if you made a music video inside there, that would be crazy too, dude.
It'd be like, yeah.
That'd be crazy. But you guys pulled up in an Impala or some sort of lowrider.
Yeah, we had a homie out of Santa Ana who's part of a lowrider club, and he provided 2 of the whips for us for that video. So it was nice to have that support, you know what I mean, and be able to just have these, types of aesthetics for the video because, I mean, it just made it look, we have the Carousel Mall that's closed down, but we got this really clean ride, like, we're still moving. Like, this is how we think of ourselves. Like, you know what I mean? We don't see the deconstruct or the breakdown of the memories that we had.
In its glory day, like Carousel Mall.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you could destroy the building and those memories are still very sharp there. Yeah, all those times. Yeah.
Dude, the upper stairs and the downstairs, they had the actual Carousel.
The Daniels Jewelers in there. Was there forever.
Theater, they had a movie theater. And I watched Spawn there. Like,
dude, my homies, they actually owned the Chinese restaurant that was upstairs, and they used to feed all the office people from the county and stuff downstairs. Yeah. So they were like the last ones open before everything like shut down. But we used to go up in the restaurant. The homie would let us smoke in the back in the kitchen. Yeah. We get some Chinese food and dip out. You know what I mean? So it was a great experience towards the end. Yeah.
Damn. Jose, the LP, the EP, excuse me.
Sure.
What was the inspiration behind that? Because that one is that the second EP from their first?
Yeah, that'll be the second. Yeah,
that'll be the second. Mm-hmm. So what was the inspiration behind doing that? Jumping from the first EP to now Jose EP. Yeah,
for me, it was really just about kind of capturing like myself as that. I don't want to say idea or the concept because like Jose is a common name, for most Latino communities. So it's also kind of like a marketing thing, right? To call it that. But it also hits home for me because a lot of the older generations in my family are named Jose, and then they have a middle name where they have, some abbreviation afterwards. So I just wanted to solidify like, that it's not a name that I go by because for me, it's like, well, there's so many that I just want to be more unique when, in a social setting. Yeah. But then I also give, like, when I order food in public places, I'll give a fake name, like, to get my food back. So I'm not, like, using my name in public. I don't know. It's just me. Like, I don't want to hear my name being shouted out through the intercom, like, number 45.
Adrian Brook.
Number 45.
Mark Flores.
Yeah.
Number 5. Yeah.
Like, your whole name. You know what I'm saying? So, but for me, hearing my first name feels like I'm listening to, to my whole name being blasted out there like that. So part of it is really just, again, just the marketing side of it, but then relating to my personal stories growing up. And then also, basically a shout out to, to my dad and to the people that kind of helped me, develop who I am and how I carry myself, you know what I mean? Because those were people that I saw as, very...
I feel like you have dope parents. I mean, I don't know your parents, but from what I've observed, I know that your mom was, pretty like... she held it down like for the household.
Yeah.
Very strong, independent woman. Then your father, very hardworking. From what I know, because you guys helped with the fountain back in the day.
He was. He was deep in the game and the fountain business, and I helped him, for a few years. But it came to a time where I did have to, not take all the jobs he was getting, you know, and to help him with it, because I did have my own, you know, life to cater to and want to like just grow and develop.
Yeah, you had your own vision, dude.
Sure,
which is hard because you have your parents' expectations on you, sort of like, oh, you know, maybe you should work commercially in the commerce or something, you know, but you're doing something musically.
No, I respected the hustle because it just showed me, you know, that determination, right? Like maybe he was looking at it more like financially, you know, or whatever, because, you know, a single dad at the time, you know, with 3 kids, like for him was probably a little bit more stressful than, you know, someone, you know, getting child support or someone getting, you know, aid or support in that way. So understanding like, okay, he still had to show up for himself, even if, you know, he wasn't able to show up for us or couldn't be there for us. And so just understanding his drive, you know, behind that. But again, we went to a lot of actors, famous people's houses in Hollywood. We delivered a lot of fountains.
Yeah, because there were different dope fountains.
We were going to like the Olsen twins' house before they were, you know, really big and popping, because they were just regulars of my pops. Or we went to Debo's house, you know what I'm saying, rest in peace Debo, before, you know, after Friday and after all those things. But my dad got to know him a little bit, and we went to, you know, the DiCaprio's house too. Like we got to know their family structure just a tiny bit, not even just like, oh, we're best friends, but just being able to be in that like instant transaction of like, oh, this is so-and-so's dad and this is so-and-so's mom, and, you know, this is crazy. Like I got real articulate really fast because I, you know, learning how to, one, translate the conversation between my dad, because his English wasn't the best. So I'm talking to these rich elites, letting them know what he's trying to convey and what they mean and what he's trying to convey and what they, you know, what he means. So just in those conversations of helping him in communicating, it taught me how to speak for myself, you know, and then how to, again, just articulate myself when I want things to be known and heard, and, you know, how I want things to be understood. That was a lot of the just learning how to communicate.
Now you've worked a lot with Noah James. I've obviously seen Noah James. He's big in the IE as far as, you know, doing a lot of stuff. You know, he's very active.
Oh yeah,
you know, in the community. You've worked with him a lot, or you know, he's worked with you. You know, can you talk a little bit about that interaction and that collaboration? You know, that what draws him to you or you to him as far as like collabing together quite a bit? Because I feel like at this point, you like know him so well where you know the type of sound that would work best for him, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, that just comes back to, you know, me being able to tailor make a beat or, you know, like a suit, and just knowing, hey, these are your measurements. This is what would work best for this occasion or for whatever concept you're
like
trying to
say I'm Noah James and I come to you, like, what are your thoughts already on making a beat? Like, how are you going to design a beat?
Oh, it has to be like insane, like obnoxious, bassy, intimidating, beautiful rage, you know, just to put a few words into the genre of subgenres.
Yeah, like if for those who want to know what we're talking about, listen to the Mahjong Boo track. Oh yeah, that's a big track of your guys's.
Yeah, and man, we actually have the American voice actor for Boo's Hungry featured on a verse in the voice of Boo on the Boo's Hungry remix.
Damn, dude.
Which I don't think it's dropped yet. So we still, I have it obviously in my sessions, but just listening to that was like, I didn't even know that was a check off my bucket list that I had or didn't have. I used to watch the show. Yeah, to have a legend so
at least that voiced Mahjong Boo from Dragon Ball Z. Like,
and to see Noah and the Boo artist perform it live in Pomona for like this, you know,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a really intimate show, but it's just one of those things where you just like knew about it. You showed up, he was there.
Now, what were you there at the origin of the idea of the track, or like how did so? I'm imagining you made the beat first, or did you guys talk about the idea then you produced the beat, or how did that go?
No, so I had 2 tracks. One was Boo's Hungry, and the other one was Love Monster. Those are 2 songs that Noah James came out with. Both of those beats are like brother and sister. So I made them at the same time with the intent of just kind of dipping my feet in the water of what is trap rap beats, you know, like how do I make a trap rap beat my way? So I jumped in, you know, with Love Monster beat, and then I went on and made Boo's Hungry, I think like maybe 12 hours later. But the crazy part is that both of those beats,
12 hours later,
both of those beats, it was a very short time frame. It wasn't like, oh, I took a long time and then I came back to the drawing board.
That though, so nonchalant about it. Oh, you know, just pretty
Yeah,
silly.
yeah. So within a short time frame, less than a day, I went back and then made Booze Hungry. But when I first played it, I played it for Noah. I think it was like a beat showcase in Fontana. It was a very small, intimate thing as well. But I had it on my laptop. I was, hey man, I made a couple beats. Check these out. And he was like, those are crazy. What is that? You know what I mean? So then from then I was just like, all right, send it to him. And he would tell me, like, he would text me every day, like, yo, man, I think, you know, I'm having a hard time putting this together. Like, why is it so difficult to write to these, right? And then he consulted with, I think, some of like his other, you know, mentors and people in the hip hop game. And then, you know, he figured it out. Oh, I need to tap into that niche of the thing that I actually love and you know, kind of represent, which is sort of the nerdcore hip hop sort
That's
of.
crazy that he identified that.
Yeah. He recognized it, and even Lisa J, because Lisa J is a very huge inspiration as well. She's, you know, sometimes behind the scenes, but she is sharp as ever. Like, she sees art like nobody sees art, you know. So it's good to get her input and, you know, sometimes her just creative, you know, ideas that she has, because she got some good ideas too. So I think she also helped kind of move the record along, where she felt like, okay, let me, you know, kind of, I guess, affirm with Noah that this is the right way to go and you should write this song this way, you know? So yeah, shout out to Lisa J, shout out to Noah
because that's
James.
the tricky part. Sometimes you hear a beat, you know it's the one, but then it's like,
Oh, no,
how do I deliver what this is telling me?
No, I have the email that I sent Noah, and it was actually August 5th, I think, of 2015 or something like that. That same year that, you know, I met Wu-Tang. Then shortly after we did Booze Hungry, then we toured it. Then we went on tour for like 30 days, you know, across the States, and we came back. It was like a very fast thing that happened. So yeah, Booze Hungry was that one where I still have the email, and I sent to him. I said, yo, this is the one. Like, this is the one. And then after that, he, you know, it kind of maybe sparked him to be like, yeah, this is the one.
How did you know that? Because you called that. How did you know?
I don't know how I knew. That's the crazy part.
Just
I don't know how I knew.
Yeah.
I just knew it's like, all right, like, this is enough paint or enough sauce or enough of whatever it needs to be. And then, you know, we could have always went back and restructured it, but it just felt like this is, you know, the missing piece to the puzzle that we were trying to find, in terms of just laying another foundation for ourselves to be able to elevate, you know, in the community, or even just elevate people in their own minds and be like, oh, you know, somebody that I know made a record that inspired me, and now we could try to make a record that inspires other people. So just, you know, just pushing that thing forward. Yeah.
There was a track I liked that you guys did, The Miracle.
Oh, word.
You know, that one was a dope track.
Yo, shout out to Holly. Shout out to, you know, to everybody over there, man. Because, yeah, that was one of those too that felt really good when I was writing the hook.
The hook is already like, you know, just a very memorable line or hook. I think that really is like a staple in the discography.
Okay,
you know. Is that Noah's? Is part of Noah's like, as far as,
so
was that his album, or whose album was that?
Yeah, that was on his album, and I think we dropped it as a single too. So that one was produced by Holly Beats. Shout out to Holly, and it was just one of those where I added my, you know, mix and mastering touch.
Yeah, because not only lyrically do you have it, or production, but like you've been developing hooks and your voice.
Let us not forget, I wrote a whole verse on there too. Yeah.
You've developed a voice in order to like make hooks and stuff, which is a hard thing I think for an MC to do, like to make hooks and stuff. Like it's usually like the second thing most MCs think about. They usually think about the verse first, then the hook or the chorus. But you know, writing that, how did that develop? Writing that hook. Was that like in studio with him, or was that alone?
No, that was just me by myself in the studio, just very like centered. The best way I could describe it. Yeah, I mean, you know, I smoke weed, but it wasn't like I was so fried that I couldn't think or be creative or have fun with my own music or with a beat somebody sent. I just really tried to center myself in what the song was telling me, and it just felt like that, you know, because we're getting a beat from an artist who now, you know, he's a producer artist touring worldwide and doing his thing, but he was under, I forget his name, Diplo, I believe. He was under Diplo's label for a little bit. So to know that Diplo heard the track and was like, yo, this is fire.
That's kind of crazy.
Was like, and to hear word back from that he also was like, no, this is fire. And then, you know, to put it out through our distribution label at the time, at Alpha Pub, and the Order label was like, yo, this is this is something.
Have you gotten hit up by like, you know, anybody notable that you could recall? Like, because your beats are crazy, like crazy dope. Like,
Thank you, bro.
And you make beats all the time. Like,
Yeah.
do you put it out there for people to hear to hit you up, or have you got hit up by anybody in that regard?
I try to just keep it rare, you know, because I've had beats online and it doesn't fulfill that, you know, I don't know what you call it, but it just doesn't fulfill me, you know, to feel like, oh, this is something worth doing. It felt like I was doing too much, you know, chasing the dragon in terms of trying to sell beats consistently all the time. At some point, maybe you start to sound the same. And so for me, like, I don't want none of my art pieces to ever sound the same. I want them to be literally one of ones.
Yeah.
You know, and so even with Love Monster and Boo's Hungry, when they came out, it was like they were both connected because they were made in the same time frame, but they were both they went to two different ways, two different trajectories. And that's just how it was supposed to go, you know. So I really see it as that. And then I guess just not forcing it, you know, is a big part of it too. Because
who would be like somebody that you would vision or see that you would want to rap on your beats? Like, who is an artist that like that would be the dream? Like, how we connected or will connect or something. Like, who would be one that you would want to work with you? You know, you talked about Wu-Tang. You've talked about different artists before. But
yeah, I mean, you know, anybody from Wu-Tang, you know, would be fire because I
really can't go wrong.
Yeah, you can't
anybody.
go wrong there. You know, so anybody from their set would be awesome. But you know, even like the Currencies or you know, you know, having somebody like, I mean, it could be anybody, man. Because for me, it's always just again like the beat will inspire the artist or the artist will inspire the beat, and then you know we'll have this just crazy dynamic of they're doing their job 100% correct and it sounds fire, and then the beat is doing the same thing. So there's just like a crazy parallel that happens, and I think it's almost like the paths don't cross, but it's like, you know, when you try to put a magnet together, it's like there's just this force.
Now, since you were like coming up in the mid or early 2000s, mid 2000s, like you were starting to kind of find yourself as a producer and stuff and MC, that those years predominantly reigned 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, Kanye. Did any of those three have any effect on you, or what was their effect on you? Those three big artists, 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, Kanye.
I mean, if I had to just put them in different, you know, categories, I would say Kanye's creativity in terms of production, Wayne's flow creativity in terms of writing, and 50's marketability, you know, in terms of how he could, you know, put a whole piece together like that and you know, it do what it did. Those are probably like the 3 points that I took from each artist.
I remember back in the day when Kanye came out with was it Dropout? No, it was the next one, I think, after that.
Late Registration. Yeah.
Because that was, I think, our senior year, I think, 2006, wasn't it? And I remember when that dropped, and I remember you copped that CD. You were in the car, like listening to it, like very like closely and intently, like listening to where was Kanye taking it next from the College Dropout.
Oh yeah.
And I remember you played it a few times back. You're like, okay, all right, you know. So I kind of remember that a little bit, and then like. Did his, because he's a very influential producer, you know, nonetheless, you know, whether we agree or not with his whole persona now, but like early at that point in time, like how would you say, what about his production did influence you?
You know what, there was a lot of times, especially in Late Registration, where I heard subtle imperfections that obviously didn't need to be perfect, but they were there, and it made me feel like, oh, I don't have to swing the bat so hard. I just got to hit the ball. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that just goes back to me understanding, like, he wasn't trying to make the perfect beats. He wasn't trying to make, you know, he was just having fun. And a lot of times those raw feelings that he really tried to, like, mold into the records came out, and I could hear it and I could understand it, you know, just sonically. So that's kind of what I took from Late Registration.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like I was saying earlier, you know, I know you have a different ear when it comes to music, you know, what you're listening for and what you're listening to. You know, you definitely have a different ear.
It's just calculated. It's just very over analytical, almost to a fault, where it's like I'm listening too hard, but then what I take from it is like, well, I'm not taking every bit and piece from what I'm listening to. I'm just absorbing the parts that I like, and then readjusting or recalibrating those in my mind so that when I do it, it's not just exactly like that, because again, I do find imperfections in other things. And so, okay, how do I make it better, or how do I make it more noticeable for the ear, just even on a scientific level? What frequencies could pick up these ranges and these ranges? So those little subtleties, I think, have also just been part of my formula, because I mean, I don't say that people don't dive in that hard, but sometimes you fall into those intricacies of music accidentally, where it's like, oh, I accidentally erased this, but it sounds way better this way, or I accidentally added this, and it sounds so much better this way. So those little things, being able to just create a formula for that, that's kind of been like a huge step forward in me just understanding myself and what I can do, and even now my capabilities of being able to create a jingle or score a short film, or anything, because I've had those types of work. I've had those works recently. So
so how is that different, like scoring something rather than like just making a beat? Like what are you looking for when you're scoring a movie?
They charge what they charge for scoring because it's a lot of tedious work. I mean, in my case, because I'm such a nerd about it, it's frame by frame. It's not beat by beat or measure by measure or even second by second. I'm going frame by frame, emotion by emotion, expression by expression. And that's just me being more detail-oriented.
Let's say I was doing something, like let's say I visually look like more mad or upset, and I'm like, you can make like a beat to this.
Yeah, so I turn essentially what your voice would be as a frequency to my ears, and your image is now that frequency. So I try to turn what I'm seeing and how I'm seeing it into a sound.
That's freaking nuts. Yeah. Dude, I came to Adrian back at my previous podcast for the Deep End.
Let me drink some water.
The Deep End. The Deep End was a podcast I was doing for a short while, which was a more kind of like a conspiracy, politics.
Let me just tell you that I liked the Deep End.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And it was very a nerdy side of me, for sure.
The Deep End was hip hop as fuck.
That's what I'm saying.
It was hip hop as fuck.
And
so I hit up Adrian, and this is just to show you like the level of skill this guy has. Like, and I hit him up. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for an intro for the podcast and that I'm doing, and this is kind of what it's about: conspiracy stuff like that, politics. I'm diving deep into like, did we land on the moon and all this stuff, and I was like, do you have maybe some beats you already created? Like, I'll listen to that and see what works. And he's like, come to the studio. I'm going to create it from scratch.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm just going to make it from scratch. I like to create that way. I'm like, okay, all right. Let's go. Fire. Yeah, and it is. I still have it too. I didn't play it for our podcast because you made it so tailor-made to that that it just didn't work for this because it was tailor-made.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there. Yeah. I'm sitting there just, like it's like the old days, dude, of me sitting in Jay's room and just listening to you at work, and it's funny because as you listen to Adrian create this beat, it's like you don't know where he's going with it. Like he'll start off with some sample or some music instrument that you're like, how does that work?
Right.
You start playing it over and over, just kind of manipulating the sound, the pitch, different things you're doing, you're adding, you're like, oh, this sounds good. You might change up the whole direction, dude. Like, and slowly but surely, as I'm sitting there, like thinking about the next thing I'm working on for the episode or whatever, you're slowly developing the sound. And I'm like, dude, where did this come from? Like, suddenly it was a unique, tailor-made sound that matched, the energy of what I was doing on the podcast. And again, he did the same thing again for our podcast, and that was dope because you had came to me and I was telling you, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's the right sound. It's a dope beat, but I just didn't know if the energy was the right. Came back and I'm like, all right, cool. A couple of days later, hey, how's this one sound? Yep, that's the one there, dude. So like, that about you is dope because it's like I can trust no matter what I'm doing or working
reassurance
on,
is there.
You could freaking deliver whatever it is, which is fucking whatever idea or vision. Like that's how good you are. Is like you could create that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Like, I don't know, like, where do you go from here? Like, you could pretty much create any, like, vision you might have.
Oh yeah.
Is there an idea for a next album? And if so, like, what is that idea, or what are you leaning towards, or what's your next kind of project with, with all the skills that you've attributed now?
Yeah, I think, I mean, right now, just commercially, I've stepped into creating a jingle for one of my corporate sponsors, Bandera's law firm. So they're located right here in Ontario. AYE representatives, you already know if you need that representation, where to go. Bandera's law.
Hey, check it out.
All right. But they are right now, in contract with me to create a jingle for their brand. So I'm working on an original, Spanish record, just to help promote their business, obviously to create, some type of just, bigger marketing, opportunity for them as well. Because, you got to get on radio, you got to get, some type of slogan, something, super catchy. So I've put my foot in the door in that world because I feel extremely comfortable in my own skin to do so. I don't feel out of my element. I can still go in the studio, write a 16, a 32, whatever. And the next day work on a jingle, for a brand or X, Y, and Z. But I think now, as far as music, I am going to be just working on some more Spanish records. So I am putting together a Spanish album, like a full-length album, not like, 3 songs, 4 songs.
Nice.
So I'll probably release one single maybe before the year, or just at the beginning of the new year. I'll release a new single maybe like the first 2 weeks.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it here first. No, yeah, you have, because it hasn't left my brain in any other conversation. So yeah, at least the first 2 weeks of January, I'll have a new Spanish single, rolling out the new Spanish album, probably sometime mid-year, even maybe around this time when it'll actually come out. But I want to build the anticipation. I want to build, that sort of weight and anxiety behind it, because it is going to be something, again, just like my EP, like it was monumental in the sense that it was a concept that maybe isn't common yet. So just, continuing to put the pressure on that nerve to make sure that it's, heard and that it's respected and that it stays consistent in terms of what other songs in Spanish might be talking about. Let's try to focus on this. And then again, it's all for self-motivation. So you can play it in the gym, you can play it on your way to work, you can play it when you wake up, when you go to sleep. It's not going to make you feel like you owe anybody anything but yourself.
Damn, dude. And just my last question to you in regards to that, because you've been on this like good vibe,
Sure.
Where a lot of your music is that. It's a lot of good vibes, good energy you're putting out there. What's inspiring you towards that, rather than like, a lot of MCs like to get gritty, like to get dirty. And we're getting shot out here and stuff like that. Like what puts you on that type of vibe where you're putting out good energy out there, rather than like maybe street stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean,
you do mention some street stuff, but I'm saying like going heavily into that.
Sure. I mean, growing up, a lot of my family on both sides of my family were involved, or had been involved at some point. So I saw it firsthand, and I'm talking about not like street level stuff, I'm talking about deeper than that, So essentially being born and around that and seeing it firsthand, it's like, I don't want to keep that same narrative going, because I see what it does, and I see what it's done to my family personally. I've seen what it's done to other families. So it's not something that I feel like is actually like a long-lasting solution to just approaching art, because at some point someone might pull your card and, want to test you for those things that you're saying, whether you're claiming to be self-proclaimed, quote unquote hard or not, and I just don't need extra drama around my family when it comes to those things. And I can hold my own. Let's not get it twisted. It's just, I don't need to overstress or look over my shoulder.
He was from Rialto, guys.
Yeah. I'm from the IE. So, and from Michoacan.
Don't get that twisted.
Yeah, we're from Michoacan. So it's just one of those things where like, you don't really want to push somebody. You don't want to push somebody to the point where, they're going to show you a side of them that they might not be proud of. And as far as the peace and the harmony goes, it's just, me maintaining that peace with the people that I actually care about and respect. Outside of that, there's always going to be some type of distortion, trying to infiltrate, your peace and try to disrupt you. But for me, it's just really learning how to turn that into art, or turn that into, instead of wanting to retaliate or write a diss track, is like, bro, why would I take my time to elaborate on something or some concept where it doesn't even align with my beliefs? Like, I would be doing a disservice to myself or my inner child. You know, I would be.
And it's not like you couldn't. It's just that you just don't want to even get into that.
And it doesn't fulfill. It really doesn't fulfill that need or want to want to put music out the way that I feel like music should be. At least for me, because I want to be able to listen to it. I don't want to hear my tracks and be like, nah, turn that off. Like, I don't want to hear my voice. Like, I never want to be that guy. At least to me, And so when I hear myself, I want to be able to appreciate myself and the things that I'm saying, because eventually I'm gonna have kids and a family, and I want them to feel the same way. Like, yo, Pops was spitting bars on this and he went off. He wasn't, going hard on nobody but himself and, the things he was talking about, which, again, creatively, I can't just go on the record and start saying what those things were, whether it was in the past or, things that have happened. Because, again, now I understand, like, sometimes the judicial system wants to turn your lyrics into, some type of like, oh, you're guilty of this or you're guilty of that because, it aligns with this crime that happened on this day. So I don't also, again, that's just tiptoeing.
Self-incriminate yourself
tiptoeing around the sampling concept again, but in this terms, it's tiptoeing around our own lyrics. And so for me, I just thought, okay, well, it doesn't hold me back from being myself. And if anything, I've always really truly believed, like, the more limited I am, the more creative I can be. So it really helps me exercise that muscle. And so if I can't use certain words or say certain things, that's fine. I'll find other ways to say them and still make it dope and fun to listen to, because that's the whole point,
What's one of your, just really quick, what's one of your favorite tracks that you have, either produced and written on or just written on? Like, what's one of your favorite tracks?
Man, one of my favorite verses of all time is actually the verse on the song I did with Cam Gnarly on, I believe it's, which album is it? Man, we've done so many albums together. But I have a verse on one of his tracks. And I can't remember the name of the track right now. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but it's on there. But that verse is like...
Do you remember the album?
I mean, if I saw a picture of it, I could. But it's just so much work, has gone on that it's like my brain is now connected to just this new level of...
Well, what about the verse that you liked?
I like that there was grit, that there was a picture being painted, and that you could, in some way, at least connect to one of the two lines in those bars. And it just made me feel good about myself. I guess it just made me feel strong, because it was like a short version, summarized version of like Brook from like 2017 to like 2022. Just a quick little like, here's a crash course on me in like 24, 32 bars. I think it was some offset verse number of bars like that, like 24, 32 bars.
That's dope.
But I mean, I had a lot to say. I wanted to just put it on that record, and the beat was dope. Again, produced by Pontu, the same guy who produced Top Notch. He produced that record as well. Yeah.
One of my favorites from you is, I'm not even sure if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Huracan.
Oh yeah, Huracan. Yep.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites from your discography, just because it just felt like that was the spaz. Just a lot behind it.
Yeah, no, that was the spaz too. Like, again, just representing the Latino community in the way that maybe gets not so much light all the time, but it's common knowledge.
It's not too much.
Just painting that same picture, and just
because I don't know of a lot of artists that rap in Spanish. Mark, do you know of a lot of like hip hop artists that rap in Spanish
that do the double, like predominantly English and then into Spanish?
Just all Spanish, or even,
all Spanish? Yeah. You'd have to
let's say even double. Let's say English and Spanish.
You get Fat Joe, Pitbull, just a select few.
That's honestly. Even if you count Pitbull as an artist, like a hip hop artist.
A hip hop artist,
yeah. And then that select few has already gone into the stratosphere in terms of like, because they've, and I only know them because they've achieved that level. Right. Like, I'm only speaking of the people that are known on the mainstream level.
Right, known like that.
Yeah.
Because like even like somebody who would be Latino like Cypress Hill or Psycho Realm, those guys don't even really rap Spanish.
Big Pun to a certain extent, because remember, he was the first Latin artist to even get a
Right.
Grammy.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a big achievement.
So
Oh, yeah.
there's a little bit of
It's a little.
stuff. There's a little bit of stuff
Yeah.
with.
No, I jumped more into the Spanish scene too because a good friend of mine, Iman Europe, she's actually a really incredible artist. Has a lot of music, with sync license with a lot of shows as well that came out recently. But her music is incredible, and she referred me to a French production group that wanted to jump into the Spanish rap game, and I guess they did their research and searched through LA for like a month, and they're on like a work visa, so they can't even be here that long. So they were really searching for a voice or a sound that fit what they were looking for, and they just ended up basically saying, "Hey, man, we listen to a lot of people, and you're the only one that we actually really liked."
And especially someone's rapping in Spanish on like hard beats.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna find that.
Yeah, so they
I just
reached
don't think
out,
you can find that.
and they found me out here in IE, and then
Yeah.
I had their production group driving from LA to the IE to come to my
you're
studio.
definitely. Excuse me for taking
yeah.
this comparison,
No.
but you're finding kind of like a Selena's approach because she was, predominantly she knew English, but then she's kind of like positioned her career Spanish first, which is I think the best strategy could go to do that because you're really connecting with your roots first and foremost.
Yeah. And to me, talking about it now, I see it as like just adding paint to the paintbrush.
Yeah.
Making that one run and then just hitting it a couple more times and then feeling, okay, I got enough paint to really paint this thing. Yeah.
Well, what's the message that you feel is deep down there that you're trying to like get out? Like I know it's very hard to do that as a lyricist, but like, trying your best to candidly try to like open that jar.
Yeah.
What's down there pressing you or driving you to get that message out?
It's just, I guess, there's a lot of lack of accountability, self-accountability. There's a lot of just things that are lacking, period. So not trying to like teach people how to be good people in a way, but without preaching to them how to be good people.
That's a challenge to walk that fine line of not coming off preachy.
Yeah. So, and, not incorporating any religion or any political opinions behind the lyrics because it's all just about self-motivational consistency. So if you're able to recognize that within yourself and say, hey, I have the ability to one, recognize something I want to do or accomplish, and then even if you just work on it a little bit, you're aiming towards seeing that through. This is just to kind of help keep you going. Yeah. Again, because I'm not trying to latch on to nobody's good times or bad times because everyone has their own experiences. So for me, it's just, well, I've made it through a lot of those bad times. Not to say there won't be more coming forward, but I know how to better handle them. And this is just kind of a little bit of a conscious, subconscious push in that same direction to keep you aligned with that same concept where maybe one day you have a rough day, but then you listen to some music and you know what? This, whether you understand it or not, even if you don't speak English or Spanish, like you would still feel something that would push you in that right direction. Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, I appreciate it, Adrian, man. It was dope. Kind of like just talking.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
It's dope, just kind of like talking hip hop with you because, like I was saying, you have a different point of view, from your background, but then also like your particular, specification, like, you're a specialist when it comes to like producing and, songwriting and just, that whole makeup of what it takes to make, music, hip hop,
Thank you, bro.
And you've been a real one, in regards to like the true essence of like production, hip hop, like, you've been about that for a long, long time too.
Yeah.
So
I don't have no hate emails in my Gmail or my Yahoo where people were not happy about a product or something or any service that I've ever provided in the last 5-10 years. Like nobody could say anything negative, and if they do, that's just their opinion because I'll have 1,000 other emails that vouch for like you said, like my ability to just deliver what it is that I said I'm gonna do.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So peep game on A Brook's work. We're gonna put the link for all the music that he's produced, and you can find it on Apple Music, Spotify, And you can just check out like and just realize that as you're hearing it, like dude is the mastermind behind the boards, behind the actual production of it, which is you know that plus being like being able to rap in Spanish. Being able to rap, first of all, is the hard part. You have to get around.
Yeah,
then doing it in Spanish is like another layer of fucking to do that. So like, you know, this is dope that we had a chance to speak with you, A Brook.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, not only have you, influenced and inspired me, but a lot of other, you know, people that you've come across and worked with and all that.
Man. Thank you.
And for those who are like first listening, you know, who haven't, you know, listened to your music, it's cool because it's a gem for those out there who don't know that, like, you know, IE got a lot of local artists here that are like,
there's some great
awesome, talented. Yeah.
And I'm just telling y'all right now, if this is your first time hearing me and you're one of those hermit crab artists, try. That's it. Just put something out. It doesn't matter if it's a verse, half a beat, whatever. Just make something that you feel like is worthy, and then it'll literally take off from there.
Yeah, and also, you know, feel free if you want to like work with A Brook. You know, he's accessible. You can reach out to him. You know,
I'm accessible, and there's about 800 emails before you. So,
way to preface it.
Take a number.
I am accessible, but you're in line.
This is not a meat market, but take a number.
Yeah. But if you're you know, only serious inquiries only, of course, and if you're really like about it,
let's make magic. Yeah. I'm not trying to impress no girls. Let's make magic. Yeah.
So for everybody who's listening in, appreciate everybody. We just reached over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So peace to you guys for like.
Hey, congratulations, man. That deserves a little, just, you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna clap to you guys.
Yeah, it's a sound effect. Yep. And you know, of course, we got some episodes lined up for you. We got, you know, I'm just gonna put it out there. We got an interview with Necro.
The fresh exclusive.
Say it ain't so.
So that's you already know, man. Necro, hip hop underground legend. So Peep Game, we got some episodes coming up for you, some dope albums that we're also covering, and you know, just stay tuned for that.
Yep.
Mark, let them have it, brother.
To the MCs, if you drop a mic, drop a like. We out here. Freaking A Brook live in effect.
A Brook live in effect.
You heard it. You heard it here first.
Richard destroyed an atomic bomb that
This is
dropped.
the fallout he was talking about.
Yeah, with Einstein
and dope rhymes and